And some of the issues you mentioned there of making information understandable to people, I think will be important in the next presentation, which is coming from Robert Devoy and Sarah Kondrat, who will speak about the Coastal Atlas of Ireland. Professor Robert Devoy is an Emeritus Professor of Geography at University College Cork in Ireland, and he was formerly a lead member of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. His research interests lie primarily in coastal science, including contemporary coastal processes and coastal management. He is one of the co-editors of the Atlas of Ireland, together with Sarah Kondrat. Sarah has a master's degree in coastal management and geographic information systems, and she holds a PhD in geography from University College Cork, Ireland. Sarah specializes in the use of geoinformatic technologies for environmental, coastal, and marine applications. Currently, she's head of aerial surveys at the Green Rebel Company based in Ireland. They will now both speak about the recently published Coastal Atlas of Ireland. So Robert and Sarah, you have a total of 13 minutes, including questions, and you'll have a countdown slide when 3 minutes remain. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think you're going to share the slides for me from your end.
Yes.
Hi. I think you have the slide on the screen in front. Good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. This is the short presentation from myself and Sarah, as Ned's described, for the Coastal Atlas of Ireland. The talk is presented in two parts. I'm just going to cover the initial hard copy of the Atlas, which has just been published, and Sarah will pick up in part two fairly shortly on the digital elements of the Atlas. So second slide, please. So the Coastal Atlas of Ireland is a relatively unique, I think, structure of maps and a whole variety of different types of graphics. As you can see from the slide points there, the idea of the Atlas came out from an initial production of an Atlas series in 2005, which was published through Cork University Press for the Atlas of Cork City. The atlases overall are a relatively unique blend, as you can see on the point there, of different graphics together with text and of course lots of maps, new and original. So it's very much an informed text that wraps together a whole variety of different graphic material to present a thematic approach to the study of a particular subject. In this case, it's the Atlas of Ireland. The Atlas itself began in 2014 from initial ideas that myself and Max Kozyshenko had, and developed from there into what is now a 33-chapter, 900-page production, which, as I said, has just been published. Next slide, please. The Atlas as a hard copy is developed from over 140 contributions from scholars within different thematic areas that then comprise this total atlas. As a product now, as I said, it's from an original idea of an atlas series. This fairly unique coverage of a coastal and marine atlas has developed outside its initial sort of birthplace area of the Department of Geography, and now expresses these contributions from a whole variety of different sources within Ireland. The coastal zone theme, as you can see, develops the concept of coast from the ocean, marine, and right the way through onto the land surface. So it's an integrated work and an integrated thematic approach to the subject. The subject, of course, is very much about environmental topics and includes not only looking at past environments, but particularly focusing onto the present and into the future, with climate change issues particularly important. Move to the next slide. So what I want to do very quickly is just show you a series of the types of graphics that you'll find within the hard copy, and then I've further developed into interactive modes within the digital atlas itself. So a whole variety of graphics of modern day views, both aerial and oblique shots and vertical shots. Next slide. Of different coastal scenes, obviously scenic views. There's lots of standalone graphic images, photographic images. Annotations are used widely within the atlas. Next slide. The idea of looking at past, present and future, social, economic, as well as the urban themes are developed. And of course, the whole atlas, what's its vision, what's its purpose? It's for future generations. It's a platform to develop ideas about coasts and to inform people of coasts. Next slide. The sort of cartographies which are used within the atlas, developed as new cartography, of course, is a mixture of old as well as the new cartography, and looking at charting the history of coastal cartography within Ireland. Next slide. Modern views of the technical mapping styles. All sorts of statistical data are presented. Next slide. Statistical data, as you can see here, developed, as well, of course, as different styles of geological and sedimentary information for offshore zones. So socioeconomic right the way through to geological style data. Next slide. Graphic views, past, present, and future. Landscape is particularly important within the atlas, and that theme is well presented through the graphic styles. Next slide. Different sorts of technical diagrams and interpretations, as you might find in textbooks, but it's not strictly a textbook, but you can see has development of explanation of theory of process as well. And some of the slides from the atlas are there on the screen. Next slide. Technical information, developing new technologies is particularly part of the theme, and Sarah will describe more of that in a moment. Next slide. Remotely sensed imagery and offshore marine subsea surface imagery is also presented. Next slide. Future perspectives is not simply an atlas of Ireland, it also has lots of links to global coasts and global themes of atmospheric through to marine science and, as I said, political, wider ocean issues. Next slide. The future, and this is the main end of the atlas in the sense is where are we going with these coasts into the future, and a whole chapter devoted to the linkages between current environmental problems and Ireland's coasts. So from there we move to the next presentation. Next slide, please. And the story map, which is the digital platform that provides promotion for the sorts of graphics I've described and an online linkage to future development of data within the atlas. So over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Robert. Hopefully you can all hear me. So I'm just going to say a few words about the digital supplement that we've put together for to the printed atlas. So this is essentially a web-based application, and we have a number of interactive digital maps as well as a number of the graphics that were in the printed atlas to give a little bit more context to some of the themes that we covered. It aligns with the kind of 6 main sections of the atlas. And I suppose the intention is so that readers of the printed atlas can probe a little bit more deeply into some of the themes that are introduced in the main text. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share my own screen, if this will work, hopefully. And I'm just going to give you a really quick demo of what it looks like. So the digital supplement is actually hosted in ArcGIS Online. It's presented as a story map, and essentially it's kind of divided up into these 6 sections that align with the printed atlas itself. So we have a kind of mixture between text and other types of media, including interactive maps. So I'll show you a couple of examples, as well as some of the beautiful graphics that have been that have been published in the main text, as well as some additional ones that unfortunately didn't make it into the printed text despite its 900-page size. So this is kind of one example, one of our introductory maps, where you can start to kind of zoom in and look at different locations that we discuss within the atlas. So most of the maps in the atlas, you're looking at a kind of national scale. And what's really nice about this is you can have different types of base maps, like the satellite imagery, and you can start to look more closely at what some of these locations actually look like from an aerial perspective. So for example, the Cliffs of Moher, I think we have a couple of other really interesting shots, you know, on Aran Islands and other different locations around the coast. So you can click on these locations and it's a little bit more interactive, I suppose, than, you know, just looking at a printed map. So we have imagery, we have text, and a bit of explanation in terms of what you're looking at. As I said, it's kind of a mix of different types of media. So here we've got some imagery and then just a little bit more detail over on the left-hand side of the screen. This map is a little bit more complex. So here we're looking at the distribution of different types of habitats and species, and we can turn on various different layers. So I don't know if my screen will allow me to do this, because it's being covered by my Zoom. Sorry about this now. But essentially, you can click on some of these locations. There's interactive links in here. So these are some of the special areas of conservation, and these will bring you to external web pages. So this is our Ireland's National Parks and Wildlife Service, and this will tell you a little bit more information about particular sites, SACs, protected areas. As I said, there are a number of different layers that we can turn off and on here. So for example, I think these are different types of water bird species and observations of populations throughout Ireland. And you can do things like change some of the base maps if you want to look at the aerial imagery, or if you want to share or print some of this material as well. And obviously we have legends as well. And then you can click on some of these locations. And again, there are some lovely external links here. I think these are from Birdwatch Ireland, which have, this is a lovely resource. So looking at, you know, these different types of species that we're covering in these different sections. I'll move on to a couple of different sections. So again, it's kind of a mix between different types of media. So we have imagery and then text. And then we've also included some data as well. So this is an example of population estimates of different types of seabirds in Ireland. There's really, really beautiful imagery throughout the atlas, and I think that having the text is really, really rich and provides some really lovely context to what you're looking at. So I suppose this section that we're looking at focuses on physical environment. It's more of an introduction, but then we have a number of other different themes that are covered within the atlas. So we dive into different types of natural coastal environments. So we look at things like distribution of dune environments or macro habitats. The third section is looking at the relationship between people and the coast throughout history. And again, there's a number of different types of maps. They're a bit slow to load, I suppose, but different types of maps that kind of illustrate these different themes that are all interactive. I'll just maybe go through one more because I'm probably running out of time.
But yeah, we could wrap up there in the next 30 seconds.
Run out
30
of time.
seconds. So essentially, just the last thing I'll say about it is it's not finished yet. We expect to finish this before the end of the year. The link will be available on the publisher's website on Cork University Press. So thank you very much, and we're happy to take any questions. Thanks, Ned.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Sarah.
you, Ned.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time on this one. It's very hard to summarize 900 hard pages plus a digital version in a few minutes, but you've done a good job. And somebody did ask if you could post the link, but Sarah, you said that it's not available yet. So once it is available, we will also make sure to distribute it through the ICANN mailing list so that everybody can explore the Coastal Atlas of Ireland a little bit more. Yeah, it was the digital link they were looking for, but Sarah, you said it's not yet available. You're still working on it a little bit.
That's right. I'll
okay,
be sure to distribute that. Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you. We look forward to seeing that. So, David, I'd like to hand back to you.